Thank you. I'm Jim Foster, Executive Director of the City Club, and delighted to moderate this debate. Welcome to this, the 7th of 13 debates presented by the City Club for races for Ohio's highest offices. Today's debate for the position of Ohio Secretary of State. We welcome those of you in this room and those listening or watching on WCPN and WVIZ. The City Club has a long and proud history of hosting debates for public office. Whether the race is perceived by the pollsters to be close or not, and whether the pundits consider it high profile or not, the City Club of Cleveland provides an opportunity for those interested in their government to learn more about the issues and the candidates. We feel it is particularly important in this year when, regardless of the outcomes of specific races, several new office holders will be sent to Columbus. At the City Club, we do our part to bring greater public awareness about the people who are the candidates and the important issues facing Ohio. The rules for the opening portion of this debate are each candidate has a total of 12 minutes for both an opening statement and a rebuttal. It is their choice as to how they will divide their time. Again, we will hear from each candidate twice in this segment, opening statements and then rebuttals by each with a total time limit of 12 minutes. After opening and rebuttal, we will move to questions from the audience and then have a closing question for the candidates. Our candidates are the Democratic nominee, Jennifer Brunner, who has worked as an elections attorney, is a former member of the Franklin County Board of Elections, a former deputy director of the Secretary of State's office, and has served as a Franklin County judge. And the Republican candidate, Greg Hartman, is a former assistant prosecutor who is currently the Hamilton County Clerk of Courts. We are very pleased to welcome the audience with us here today, and I know many of you support one or the other of these candidates. I do caution the audience that excessive cheering will be factored in and could shorten the candidate's time for rebuttal or close. The order of presentation was determined by a drawing a few minutes ago. Mr. Hartman will present first. Thank you. Mr. Hartman.
Thank you. Just so everybody knows, Jennifer and I have already shaken hands today, so. I'm glad to be here at the historic City Club and share the stage with the newly returned Bell. Exciting news for the club. I'm glad to be with you, and I knew getting into the statewide election would pose a number of challenges. One of the early challenges I faced was to convince my 9-year-old Henry, our oldest, that my victory would not mean that Condoleezza Rice would be out of a job. So I was glad to get beyond that hurdle and have had a great experience in the last year and a half traveling this great state. And I'm excited that this election comes in 2 weeks, or less than 2 weeks, as we know well. I'm currently Clerk of Courts in Hamilton County, but before that I ran a small business. I bring a new perspective to government, a perspective I think that we've lacked in Columbus. When you run a small business, you know that there's no guarantee of making a profit. You're the last guy that gets paid. You pay the government, you pay your employees. If there's any left, usually you put it back in the business. After that, you get paid. That experience has translated well to running the largest clerk's office in the state. I currently have 320 employees, which I manage while I'm on the road doing this. In addition to the 5 kids at home, some have said my wife's job is harder than mine. But we also have a 5-week-old at home. So it's crazy in the Hartman household, and they'll be glad to have me back after the election in a couple weeks. My private sector experience has translated well to running the largest clerk's office in the state. We basically run the court system in Hamilton County. We've been able to show government can be innovative. Case filings while I've been clerk are up by over 500,000 cases. We've been able to do that much more work with less employees while at the same time giving money back to the taxpayers at the same time. We've automated that office through the use of the internet and technology. That has meant better customer service for the taxpayers at a better price. When you can do business with my office online, that means the taxpayers need to have less people at court paying those people to take those business filings. I bring that experience to the Secretary of State's office. Call it a down ticket race sometimes. I don't think a more important office in the state of Ohio. 2 primary roles of the office. One in the area of elections, which gets most of the attention, the Chief Elections Officer of the state. Running elections in Ohio is a considerable management responsibility. In less than 2 weeks, we will run a statewide election in 11,000 precincts with over 44,000 poll workers. Very important to have a manager in that office, and that's experience that I will bring to this office. We've got a lot of work to do in elections. We've gotten a bit of a bad rap for how we run elections in this state. Some fair, some unfair. Because of that, the next Secretary of State is going to be required to take great steps to reassure voters that our system does work well, will work well, and every vote will be counted. To that end, in part of my 20-point plan for the Secretary of State's office, I'm going to take extra steps, and we're going to ask elections officials around the state to work harder to reconfirm to the voters of this state that our system does work well, that the machines do count votes accurately, and that we are there to promote the right to vote. Step one of the things I'm going to do to reassure the voters that our equipment works well, I'm going to appoint a director of the Board of Voting Machine Examiners. This is a board which certifies machines in elections. I'm going to have a director appointed that works for me that will conduct statewide testing of the machines before the election. Every single machine needs to be tested in this state, and those results will be released to the public. Transparency is vital to letting voters know that this equipment works well. After the election, we're going to do automatic audits of vote totals. 5% in large counties, larger percentages in smaller counties. Not automatic recounts, audits, to show voters that their vote was counted accurately on Election Day. One of the reasons I'm in this race is to get more people involved in this process. I think my opponent and I can agree on this. I am not happy with the level of participation in our system, and much of what I've talked about in the last year and a half is aimed at getting younger people involved. We need to make this process as easy as possible, and we need to have a leader in the Secretary of State's office committed to getting younger people engaged in the process. To that end, I've got a couple proposals to get younger people involved in helping us run our elections. 17-year-olds are allowed to help us run elections in this state under Ohio law right now. I'm going to work with high schools across this state. It's a shared goal with civics professors, government professors, to get younger people involved. I'm also going to work with the state university system to offer 1 credit hour to get college kids helping us run our elections. The average age of poll workers right now is 63 years old. Thank you for your service. We still need you. We need some new blood helping out in these elections. We've got new equipment all across the state. We need younger people who are more technologically advanced. So what does that do, getting younger people involved in helping us run our elections? It brings a pool of individuals who are more technologically savvy, and it creates voters for life. And that is a priority of mine as Secretary of State. Second part of the job is the business services side of the office, a critically important role for the state of Ohio. Jobs growth and jobs creation is the #1 issue we face right now in this state. It needs to be as easy as possible to incorporate. When anybody who incorporates or forms an LLC in this state, the first place they see is the Secretary of State's office. The Secretary of State is the front door to business formation in this state. Technology is our friend. We need to use it more. 40% of business filings are available online right now. That needs to be 100%, and it will be when I'm Secretary of State. We need to be able to form corporations and LLCs online through the use of the electronic signature. That will happen while I'm Secretary of State. I am also going to use this responsibility to make sure that we work with the legislature to let them know where we're falling down in our ease of incorporation laws. Right now, it's easier to form a business in Indiana. What does that mean? It means that we're losing to them when people are looking to locate their new businesses. So I'm excited about this race. I'm glad to be here today, and I look forward to a good debate on the issues of the Secretary of State's office.